Good morning, good afternoon, or is it good evening? Wherever you are in the world. That's right, we're back again, the Coffee Talks team. Oh, guys, we have some great youth from a part of the world that I would love to visit one day if they have me. So, yes, my name is Alka Patel, based in sunny London, and I'm a Heartfulness trainer and teacher. I'm welcoming our youth today.
Hi, I'm Ratnam Desriaux. I live in Reunion Island. I've been practicing heartfulness for several years now, and I'm also a trainer. And I work with teenagers and young adults. And with us today, we also have Paulina.
Hi everyone, wherever you find yourself in the world, I hope you're doing well and keeping well. My name is Paulina. I am from Namibia. I've been practicing heartfulness for right about a year now. I'm also a medical student and I love getting involved with youth skills development projects.
Hi everyone, my name's Elizabeth. I'm not a youth. In fact, I've known Ratnam since she was a kid. So that's how long I've been around. But I work a lot with youth, and I'm also the editor of Heartfulness magazine, which we're going to be discussing today. And it's lovely to be here with you all. And I'm so happy to see such a representation for from the Southern Hemisphere for a change. It's like, whoa, finally there's some movement in the South, which is really good.
I mean, Elizabeth, absolutely. How you're feeling, I am too. I am blessed with all this work. So thank you, guys. Shall we start by looking at the article that you two have chosen, which I was so pleased. So please bring up the slides. That's it. Lovely. That'll be fine. Thank you, Ratnam. So the magic of pausing, Sarah Naylor. Well, I know Sarah very well. She's based here in the UK. And she's sharing her personal emotional journey from poor self esteem and negativity to love, confidence, clarity, and purpose in life. The wonderful thing is the ease with which it has happened for her. Wonderful article. So, if we could have slide one, which is what I've just read. This one, was it you, Ratham, that resonated with this?
I did. I did. It says, pause, connect with my heart, allow whatever is happening to be instead of action. Do nothing and notice what is unfolding. I really connected with this because I always feel that for every situation, we always poised for action, poised for a reaction. We never really just pause and connect with our heart to really, truly let things just be. We don't need to be in control of everything. And I realize I'm very much like that. And I see my students and the young people around me always poised for action. Allow things to be. You don't have to be in control of everything. What do you think, Paulina?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I think the one mistake that we end up doing, like you said, is trying to be in control of everything. And I think it's important for us to realize that when you actually try and be in control with everything, you actually get up, you end up being frustrated, when things don't go your way, because you've been trying so hard to have this fixed ideology of, what your life or how your life is supposed to play out. So I think it's a very dangerous zone to be in, and hence the importance of the magic of pausing, basically.
I mean, Paulina and Ratham, I agree absolutely. When I was young, in my youth, um, a fiery little thing I was. I've been reminded by my elders here, and my children still don't believe this. But anyhow, um, my question will always be, how? We all know this, connect with the heart, but how? May I invite Elizabeth?
So, okay. So the trick is to know how to do it in the moment, because it's very easy for us now to pause and connect with our hearts, and we'll do it. We'll just do a quick check-in, you can call it if you like, where we connect, we center ourselves. The trick is to know how to do this in everyday life when you're in the midst of some situation where somebody's throwing something, hurling some criticism at you, or giving you deadlines at work, or suddenly you have these challenges that just seem overwhelming. And the reason why it's so difficult then is because we're not in our baseline calm state. Our whole system has been activated. Ratnam, you mentioned this thing of just being in reactive mode the whole time. Why is that? Because our whole nervous system is actually primed for that in many, many situations in modern day life. It's called the sympathetic nervous response, or what we call the response, the fight or flight response in human behavior, where when our systems are under pressure, and it could be from being on our phones and responding to WhatsApp messages, text messages, signal messages, Telegram messages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, all bombarding left, right, and center. It can also be because of stimuli in our environment, Wi-Fi, traffic, noise, light stimulation at night, TV on, internet, video games, you name it. They all create the same response. They activate our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response. And as a result, our body goes into this stage where the midbrain, the amygdala in the mid part of our brain, takes over in survival mode. And it creates this whole physiology in us. Our hormones go into stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, etc. And so our body is like on high alert. Blood goes to our limbs, goes to the back part of the brain. We're not in thinking mode. And when we're in this state where we can't think, because there's very little blood going to this part of the brain, to what we call the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex. And as a result, we don't stop and think. We can't pause. So we actually need to practice pausing, and we need to learn how to detach from this physiological response in day-to-day life. And the only way I know how to do that is through centering ourselves through a series of simple practices, like we do in relaxation, meditation, in heartfulness, but also through the micro practices. Because if we don't know how to center ourselves, it's very hard to pull yourself out of this cycle. Not because you don't want to, all of us want to. As one of you said, I can't remember if it was you, Ratnam, or Pauline, one of you said, we want to be able to do this, but how to do it. So just do this for a second. Just close your eyes. Just bring your attention to your center. See if you can feel where that center is. A hint, it helps if you go into your heart. Try to center yourself in your heart. Try just to connect. No, don't just try, do it. Connect with your heart for a minute. Just dive into your heart for a minute and try and feel that stillness. Like when you dive into water and you go to the bottom of the pond where there are no waves. Feel the stillness. Connect with your center. Just hold it for a minute, rest there. Pause. Rejuvenate yourself. Recalibrate yourself. And let go of any tensions. Drop your shoulders if you have to. Let that whole stress response get dissolved and neutralized. And when you feel ready, come back up to the surface and open your eyes.
Tip for meditation.
That's a really great way to connect with your heart and to just pause.
I think we need to We'll go on to the next slide, Elizabeth, and maybe we could do another session at the end um, where we can sit for longer. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a meditation. This is just a centering. It only takes a few seconds.
Fantastic. Paulina, did you resonate with this quote?
Yes, I did, Alka. It says, sometimes my ego feels threatened by criticism or a comment, and I try to resist the truth by arguing and making a case to show myself in a better light. And I think what Edie said is that, and Ratnam as well, we are constantly in this fight or flight mode. And I think trying to be responsive, even verbally, is also a manifest as us trying to shy away from what people say in order for us to make ourselves feel better. And I think it's very important in those moments to really center ourselves, because at the end of the day we'll ultimately end up saying things that we don't mean, just for the sake of trying to defend ourselves in that particular moment, even when it's not rational. What do you think, Ratnam?
You're on mute, Ratnam.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Alka, can you take over?
That's better. No, it's good now.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to say this is the human condition. Our ego, everybody's ego, is constantly threatened by criticism or comment. We see this now with young people, my students, who one negative comment and they are constantly consumed by that, whereas the entire day they may have had positive comments. So for me, understanding this is we put too much pressure on ourselves to keep this image that we want people to believe about ourselves always up here. When it's not here, we sort of become fragile. So anybody can press a button and we are unstable and we feel threatened. This is exhausting. And the only way that we can overcome this, in my opinion, is really to go inside, introspect, be true to yourself. And when we are there, other people's opinions are not as important to us. To constantly be under pressure all the time to make sure everybody has this positive, view of us. It's exhausting. This is what I think. I really think we need to go inside and get a true intelligence that's come from inside.
No, absolutely. Listening to you and Paulina, and it just reminds me of, I have two daughters who are very opposite. One that is very politically argumentative, and I sometimes feel I learn so much, but it's when it gets the conversation turns into anger, and that's how she's feeling. And my question here is, how do you control that? So you've got that anger. She's protesting about something. For example, when we had the whole Black Lives Matters, which is still constantly happening, and when that conversation comes up again in a family discussion, you can really feel that anger. How then should we help our youth to address it? So to be politically correct, to be able to voice it, but without the anger. So it's just a thought I had only yesterday, and I thought, let me ask Elizabeth.
This is a big topic, and we've actually been working on a book on this topic called From Anger to Love, with essays by a whole lot of people from around the world, including Daji. And there's nothing wrong with anger. Anger is, in yoga, it's known as krodha. It's one of the divine emotions. It's something very useful for us. It's how we use it that matters. So, does my anger make me mad at the world? Does it make me yell at the world or hurt somebody? Or do I suppress it and hurt myself and become depressed and end up with, cardio problems and all sorts of other things, including cancer? There's a lot of research now to show that suppressed anger also has hugely negative effects on our physiology. So one extreme is to yell at the world and hit the world and take it out on the world, and the other is to hold it in and hurt yourself. Neither is very constructive. Anger is there as a change mechanism. It's a warning sign that something needs to change. So when we feel it, it's a really good thing because it tells us something needs to shift. And if you look at what Daji says about it, it's really beautiful. He says, don't suppress it, but go inside and just observe how that energy, because it's an energy, right? Anger is an energy. It's suddenly your whole system has become vitalized. It's fire energy, it's third chakra energy. So think about it. Just close your eyes again, like we did, and observe how the energy is flowing in your system. And what he says is the minute you observe, you witness that, and you start to look at where it's flowing into you, how it's working, how it's radiating out of you, problem solved, because you start then to work with it. So you're becoming aware, you're becoming sensitive. And it's a bit like what you were saying, Pauline, earlier about what happens when we feel threatened or we're criticized or we resist or we try to argue. If you take that moment to stop and just observe, what's my energy doing? Where is the flow going? Why am I reacting in this moment? Why do I feel the need to defend myself? Then you start to learn to work with it. And then it becomes a tool. And then it's something fabulous because it's showing us where we can improve. And, you know, what's this life but continuous improvement? And I really liked what you said earlier, Pauline, when you were talking about this. Because at the end of the day, what does it matter what someone else thinks about us? Why is that such a big deal? You know, if somebody else doesn't like what I'm doing, I can take it and I can think, all right, what do I need to learn here? What's the point of this criticism or this person yelling at me or whatever? But then I take that and then I let the rest go. Because at the end of the day, are any of us perfect? No, nor should we be. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. You know, we're here to learn, we're here to grow. So, isn't this something wonderful? That here's an opportunity, a new opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. Shall we move on to the next slide, Elizabeth, so that we can take this off and really have that lovely free flow conversation? Because I know there's more coming. So this one, guys, I resonated with. I love this. The more I stop resisting and trying to change things myself, the more effortlessly I am remolded into something more beautiful and useful. And the reason I resonated with this is back to the old Alka, as I say, the fiery as a businesswoman in 10 different places at one time, if that makes sense, to now, you know, practicing heartfulness for over 15 years. You become that, I feel like I'm turning 360 degrees. And people that have seen me recently, that knew me from before, what's happened to you? And you think, well, I don't know, it just happened naturally. It was a natural process. Let me invite Ratnam for this.
You're on mute again, my dear.
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me? I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry.
That's it.
I was saying, as this brings to mind the cheerful acceptance. It really, I play this when I see this because when I was young, I just wanted, of course, you have an image of the way you want your life to go and you keep taking action and you want to resist things and you don't want, you know, things to flow as it is. You want it to go the way that you want it to go. And with age, I have realized that this is a futile attempt. It's futile. And it's so much of pressure. It's so exhausting. The idea is really to allow life to flow, allow life to happen to us. We can respond, but not constantly resist things, good or bad. Allow it to happen, you know. And this is why I think the cheerful acceptance, for me, it's really the key. Accept, be quiet, pause, let things unfold, and respond to life, not reacting automatically, respond to life. This is what I really think, stop resisting. What about you, Paulina?
In my head, I've been thinking a lot of something that I always say to my friends when they're going through something. And I always say, it's the 3 Ps. You pause, you pray, and you press play. So the most important thing is to pause first. And this really allows you, like you said, to go into your inner self and just figure out what really is happening here and how can I move forward. Once again, it really just becomes frustrating to try and resist things and change so many things professionally, in terms of your personal development. So I'd really, really advise a lot of young people, old people, anyone basically. I don't think the magic of pausing has a specific age limit. So yeah.
So Paulina, say that again, the 3 Ps.
It's pause, pray, and press play.
Love it. I love it. Maybe we can use that as a quote somewhere. We have the final slide, Elizabeth, and we would like to welcome you to have a read of this one.
Yeah, I think this sort of taps into what both Ratnam and Pauline were saying, that you need some tools for this. Einstein, there's a famous quote of Einstein where he says that you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness which created the problem. You have to somehow get outside of that. And how do you do that? How do you get outside? How do any of us get outside of that blinkered way of looking at the world that we have, that's based on our subconscious patterns and programming that we've developed over the years from the past? And this is where the practices really come in an incredible way, because when we do meditate, especially with pranahuti, with yogic transmission, when we're able to do that, we go beyond our own limited sphere. We're taken outside of ourselves to something that gives us a much higher perspective. So that's one thing. And that's something that you can only know by experiencing it. And, I'd like to hear Ratnam and Pauline's views on that, because that's been my experience. What do you girls feel? Ratnam, we're
Ratnam?
you're mute again. That's it.
Paulina,
Yeah.
would you like to say something to
Now,
that?
Ratnam.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so with this, as I mentioned earlier, that I've been a heartfulness I've been practicing heartfulness for about a year now. And I think for me, coupled with that, I've also really tried to journal a lot, because I figured that with meditation, you're sort of trying to center your heart. But with journaling, I found it a bit easier to actually also declutter my mind, because the mind can be a very noisy place. And so it just really helps me to, get all of that out of my system. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your problems will go away, but I think it just gives you a better position to look at things. Yeah.
Great. Ratnam, what do you feel?
So, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, it's the cleaning. For me, the practice of cleaning is key. I truly believe that cleaning creates a space within you, a space of clarity. And this is start changing. I mean, the unhelpful behaviors start to remove themselves. Through this cleaning practice, it's so powerful. I know that the cleaning, literally, I have seen changes in my life through the cleaning process. Things that happened in my life, I knew it was a consequence of the cleaning process. Meditation is obviously hand in hand with it. It's cleaning that is the key to it. And
Okay, great.
simply dissolving and falling away is through cleaning. So it's really a very important practice in spirituality.
Super. But the thing that both of you have said is you do something, whether it's cleaning, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation. You need to hone these skills. You need to refine these skills. It won't just happen on its own unless you do something. The things will fall off on their own, but they happen because we do something. We may not know what the result of that thing is going to be. You know, we may not know when we start that meditation will have this effect, or cleaning will have this effect, or journaling will have this effect, but you sure know it after some time when you start to see the results. And all these things together, when you put them together, they're like the most fundamental life skills. Because when you have these, it gives you that resilience. It gives you that ability that if somebody bullies you or criticizes you or, you know, tells you how stupid you are or anything, you just have the capacity to say, okay, so I'm stupid. And it doesn't matter. And, you know, that's just a phenomenal skill to have, whether you're a 5-year-old in kindergarten at school or, you know, you're my age dealing with colleagues, it doesn't matter, anything in between. It's the most fantastic skill.
Absolutely. Ratnam, could you take the slides down for us, please? So I just want to strip this back a little bit. You are in a wonderful place, Paulina and Ratnam, places where we don't, well, I don't feel I know much about in terms of the youth. Tell me more of what's going on there and what you feel their needs are. I'm talking about the youngsters, the youth. What are they faced with? Could, you know, easier said than done. Pause. Easier said than done. Let's meditate. What are the issues? Yeah, Paulina, I saw you nodding.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult for me to like quantify or qualify, you know, exactly what the issue is. But what I have seen or observed rather, I think is a need for emotional intelligence, and really just trying to sort, I wouldn't say sort out your emotions, because you can't just tell someone, hey, sort out your emotions. There's a lot of practice, a lot of guidance, a lot of direction. And I think it's also important for people to understand that, you know, none of us are experts at this. And it's really just trying to wing it. I think what's important is for someone to take an intentional step that this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I need, or I need to proceed and I don't know how to proceed. Can you please help me, or can you please direct me to someone who can help me? So I think always identifying what your personal problem is, and
Okay. You seem to be cutting out. Are you okay, Paulina? Okay. Maybe,
I'm okay.
yeah. Ratnam, could you jump in?
I live on a little island, Reunion Island. We are here very isolated, although we are part of France. Here, the problem I see with the youth, and I help youth, teenagers who are finishing high school and young adults who are just starting university, etc. And I see there is a big um, anxiety linked to the future. They can't follow the same, we are not able to follow the same path that we did even 10 years ago. All students have anxiety about the future, what type of careers to choose. Students with degrees are sitting at home, you know, without jobs. So it's really a different world. It's a new world. Nobody really knows, you know, much about how to actually, you can't just, you know, have a path like we did 10, 20 years ago. And I see there's a lot of anxiety linked to that. This is what I see the challenges of the youth here on the island. Everybody's leaving the island. Most youth leave the island to go into the bigger mainland, France or Europe, to pursue studies, come back here, and there are no jobs. So it's really very challenging for the youth to decide on paths and also to trust themselves, not only the system but themselves.
There we lost you, Paulina. Would you like to finish what you were saying?
Sorry,
Paulina, okay?
are you referring to me? I was okay, okay. Yeah, I was actually nodding my head when Ratnam was speaking, because it's like, oh yeah, why didn't I mention that as well? Because that really is a big problem here. I think there's really a lack of opportunities for people to get career guidance, or basically just have a mentor, someone who can help you maneuver through life, and not just you trying to figure things out on yourself. Because in as much as you grow in that sense, it can really get frustrating, can get depressing, and we don't want to end up with a workforce that is depressed and that is just going to work for the sake of going to work. So yeah, that's that in terms of making decisions and whatnot. So I think whoever's watching, whether you are a parent, whether you are a young adult, I think it's very important to be cognizant and to be fully aware of these things, so that we better approach them, even if we don't exactly know how at the moment. I think just being aware of what really exists in our society gives us a much better chance of actually trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So you're basically saying, as I was saying earlier, strip it right back, look at reality. Is it then understanding what's going on? Because that's easier said than done. Again, some people, when you're in that state or that condition, sometimes it's very hard out of it. Okay, I say this because my mum went through a deep, dark depression, and a woman who's so powerful to then go down that route. And when we talk about destiny, when we talk about our path, our Borg, I get it. I get it after seeing what my mum went through. And for her to come out, it was a long process, but using her will and the love that she had around, it was allowing that love to come in. Because sometimes when you're in that state, you don't want people around you. You push people away. I'm just going to invite Elizabeth on that note.
This is another huge topic, which, obviously we can't cover today, but, the world is really a crazy place right now. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's climate change or COVID or economic situations in various parts of the world, wars, famines, floods, fires, you name it. I mean, it's very uncertain in the sense that the goalposts have changed. And everybody knows that we need to behave differently. And of course, everybody's relying on governments to make it happen. And governments are not the answer. Governments are the slowest of the wheels to turn in society. It all starts with us. And it all starts with this thing that Sarah wrote about in her article, the ability to pause and the ability to take stock and just go, what's my heart saying right now? What is my heart telling me I can be doing as a human being? And whether that's a young person who's trying to figure out what on earth they're going to do with the rest of their life, I can't imagine what it'd be like right now. I don't think any young person could have a vision for what they're going to do with the rest of their life right now, because I just read an article yesterday about the fact that by 2030 many of the jobs that exist today will have disappeared because artificial intelligence is coming in and taking over so many different jobs. I mean, if that really does happen, what does that mean in terms of a young person and what they want to do career-wise? Maybe it means that they have to look at something other than career as being the most important thing in life right now. Somebody like you, Pauline, you're never going to be out of a job because people are always going to need doctors and medical professionals to help. But for many people, we don't know. We don't know what's coming. So, of course, everybody's feeling uncertain and unstable. How do we support each other in that? How do we give each other the stability of the love, the connection, the communication, the humanity, the unity that we go forward together? Because for me, that's the answer. None of us can do it on our own. None of us could ever do it on our own. But now I think we recognize that more than ever before, that if we put all our, I mean, just look at what happened since COVID started, right? Everybody said at the beginning, there could never be a vaccine within 12 months. Just wasn't possible within 2-3 years. And yet, because all of humanity got together, they did it. They created vaccines, not just one, but multiple within that period of time. Imagine if we all put that energy together, our hearts together, to create a vision for a future, what we would do. It's just a matter of where our intention is, and for that we need to be able to pause. So it all comes back to what Sarah was writing about in my book.
I just wanted to add, if I may, I think that what I use
Back to the setup you have there, probably is quite intense. That there was and also Elizabeth mentioned the micro practices, and there was a practice that was special. Well, when I say specially, it was introduced to doctors in the NHS in France. So it was called the 10 breaths, and you can do that standing up. Have you heard of this? Okay. So can you imagine standing in a very busy A&E and it's going crazy? You stand against the wall, you close your eyes, and you just do 10 breaths. And it's that whole shift from where you were to another layer of your consciousness. And I'm going to ask Ratnam, because I know she's a trainer, is have you used something like this with the youth that you work with?
what I use is the relaxation. First, I do, because I have groups of youth that I work with together, and they come with very similar issues. So I do a relaxation, first of all, just to disconnect them from the movement and the static that's going on around in their lives. I don't know where they're coming from, what type of circumstances, and we bring them to a quiet level just to do the relaxation. But what I did give them is a technique which they use when they're faced with a situation right now, and you don't have the time to connect with your heart and go inside and I give them a few seconds. Just separate. I just tell them we have a technique where we separate ourselves from what's happening outside. Just interiorize yourself with a few seconds from the outside, where you go into that and you just change the vibration a little bit. It's not even an effort, it's just separating yourself. So you're no longer on that edge of reaction all the time. You don't need to constantly be on the edge of reaction. Now, separating yourself from what's happening, you have those few seconds of introspection, and there's a different type of response that comes out, something that is more authentic, coming from your heart, and having had anybody can just press a button and have not a reaction. This is a technique that I use with them. With regards to the future and thinking about the future, I always say to them, to anybody, and even to my own son, who is now a teenager as well, that I can tell you what I think you should be. Anybody can tell you what you can be, looking at your talent from the outside. You need to go within, really look inside, communicate with yourself. The power of pausing without having the need to constantly be doing and searching and controlling. Learn what you love, what you think you're good at, how you can use it to society. and these are the type of techniques that I try to use. I also try to teach the cleaning technique. I think cleaning gives clarity for sure. Some of the complexities are removed. There's some clarity here, so you can touch into your, into your inner intelligence. So powerful. The pause has been such a powerful technique for me. It's such a powerful tool. I'm very defensive, constantly defending myself, defending something. Growing up in an extended family with so many kids in the same home, the comparisons, the needing to be good enough, all of that. It's a lot of pressure, and I see people in different, circumstances. And when I learned that, what am I defending? What is this image I want everybody to believe in? I need to be authentically who I am. I need to live life at ease and not in constant, because there's always going to be someone who's going to react, or criticize or say something, always. So I'm not going to constantly be, I take back my power. Now my power is with me. And I then take action from here. And it's really been helping me, even as a mother, because as a mom, starting out, I really thought I knew better. I know best. My motto was, I'm embarrassed to say, my motto was, excuse me, this is not a democracy. You do as you're told. And then I realized, as my son started growing up and we had interactions, I realized that I need to give him also, we need to pause in situations. I need to give him the space also. It's not the same type of parenting as well. Everything is changing. And I think we've grown so much from that. I think many of our interpersonal relationships and connections are fractured because we're just constantly in reactive mode. We don't want to pause and even reflect on ourselves. I think we can save relationships, have more fruitful and better conversations through just pausing. Separate yourself slightly, interiorize yourself. A few seconds it takes to just separate yourself, to change the vibration inside of yourself so that you can, react differently.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. That is brilliant sharing. Fantastic. And I know the audience are going to love that, Ratnam. I'm just going to bring it back to Paul. I'm very conscious now about the time. Paulina, do you think pausing then helps with accepting or acceptance?
Definitely. I hope I'm audible. Yes. It definitely does. It allows you to embrace the situation that you're in. And like I said, the only way that you can move forward from something is first accepting and realizing where you are, because you cannot, plan to move ahead if you don't know where you're coming from and you don't know the state of your heart or the condition of your mind when you're planning or when you're doing something. And like you mentioned earlier, that you cannot do something from the same level of consciousness from which the problem arises from. And so that really still brings us back to the importance of just pausing, journaling if you have to journal, taking deep breaths if you have to. And I think a lot of people kind of have heard these things, but I think it's just a matter of really now being intentional with doing it and actually putting it into practice. Because what's the point of us knowing things and desiring a great life, but not actually putting into practice the tools that we're given? So it's just becomes a bunch of knowledge that is useless.
Absolutely. And the article also mentioned, yes, working hard will get you to a place, but what Sarah mentions, which I love, is through the heartfulness practice and the meditation over the years, the whole remolding has happened. And that's such a natural process that you look back and go, well, when did that all happen? That's definitely my experience. On that note, Elizabeth, we have a few minutes. Would you like to help conclude this?
I think it's really the crux of it. We do our efforts, and our efforts are important, but our efforts are never going to take us to where we really want to be, because when we're moving towards something that's more evolved, or if we're trying to continuously improve ourselves, we've got to go outside our own barriers. We've got to go outside our own limitations. And the only way we can do that is with practices and with a teacher who has gone before us, if you like, who knows the route better than we know and knows where we're heading to better than we know. And this is, for me, you know, it's the crux of the whole thing, that our job in a sense is just to cooperate in that process, to do what we need to do, but we'll never do it on our own. And that's not because we're not good enough, it's because none of us on our own make up the whole. You know, if we look at this group here, for example, Ratnam brings something, Pauline brings something, Alka brings something, I bring something. The sum of the parts is much greater than any of us on our own. That's just a given. That's what humanity is all about. We're social creatures. And when we have people around who have gone further than we've gone, it's like teachers in a school, like Ratnam, what you're doing with the youth in La Reunion. You know, that why do they have you there with them? They have you because you've been through some of this before, and you've maybe messed up. You can teach them from experience, etc. It's like, why do kids have parents? Why don't we just throw babies out of the cot straight away? Because they learn from us. We learn from each other. And I think once we accept this, that none of us on our own has all the answers, even the best of us. And so when we put that together and we learn from each other, and we learn by listening to criticism from others, by advice from others sometimes, even though we don't want to hear it, by what our teenage son or daughter tells us that pushes every single button in our frame, you know, we're like, "Urgh." But still, you know, this is where we grow. And that's life. It's like the tree. The tree just doesn't grow from sunny, beautiful days. It grows from storms and, you know, monsoons and everything else. And we're the same. The minute we accept life like this, I think, and the minute we can pause and go, okay, what's happening right now? What's my reaction right now? What's my response? What do I want to do in this situation? Journal if you like, clean if you like, meditate, whatever works for you. We'll all get there together. We can only get there together.
Absolutely. Wow, that was a great way of summing this up, Elizabeth. I always love listening to you. I could just listen to you all day. My heart just opens up. But it's not about me. Paulina, Ratnam, I hope today's session will help you, those around you. Is there anything you'd like to add before we leave?
I just want to say that I wanted to just say what Elizabeth just said now, that we need each other and we need guidance. And it's just so important to be open and receptive to receive this guidance and teachings from other people's experience. And I love that she said that, because it's true. It's true. We need each other and we help each other grow and learn. Young youth and the older people, we need each other. It's just wonderful.
And Paulina?
Yeah, just to add to that as well, I think I'd really advise my fellow youth or whoever is watching basically that we do need each other, yes. And so it's important to not resist asking for help when you need help, and to also not resist receiving help, because sometimes we find ourselves in situations where someone offers to help, or they just help, and then we I don't know, we go into defense mode, like the other quote said. So it's very important to also be aware of your responses to help and your responses to asking for help, because that will really, really take you a long way. Easier said than done. It will not happen overnight. But just starting somewhere and maybe documenting your journey, you never know who it could help. So yeah, thank you so much for this session. I really, really enjoyed it. And just hearing from Elizabeth has been amazing. Ratnam as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Alka.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you. I'm going to go. So I'm going to go to mute and I want to say bye, Elizabeth. I'll see you soon. Hopefully on the next coffee talk. And Ratnam and Paulina will be in touch as we're trying to do a nice event for Africa. And keep up the good work. And I'm sending all my love to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.